crush. I really love Hugh Jackman. I don't know, X-Men just really is a crazy.
I know, I've smelled it. I know your smell. As for a lifeguard, I've seen you swim. You're not that strong. If you saw Beyonce, I know you would hug her. But I felt like I would have heard that before, so I'm going, these are true. I'm calling that a lie.
Should I tell you the
Tell me.
results now?
Tell me the results.
Okay, first off, I never took a dump in your trailer.
Oh, are you serious? Was that lady?
That is not
That
sanitary.
was Christine?
That is not sanitary. Your trailer restroom is horrible. It's nasty.
That's true.
I've
You
seen
hugged
it before.
Beyonce.
I did hug Beyonce.
That's pretty sweet.
Courtside at the Knicks game.
Right.
And Jay-Z was right there. And he
Will help you acquire the behaviors and thought patterns you need to
So
be
I'm
successful in anything that you're
embarrassed
trying to do. All right, today's guest
that I have a career.
leadership, and I am not talking
I talk about
leadership.
things like
It's
trust
not what I'm
and
talking about.
cooperation,
Jedi level
and there should be no
mixes
demand for my
standpoint.
work.
The way that he
But the fact of the matter is there is
biology,
demand for my work,
psychology,
which
quite
means
frankly,
that
just
there's an
the overall
opportunity.
human condition
It
gives
means
you
that
insight
trust and cooperation are not yet standard in our organizations, and yet they should be, and we know that, which is why we're looking for ways to bring those things to our organizations. So I thought I would do something a little different today. You know, when you're speaking to tens of thousands of people and you have the opportunity to share a message, of course, most rational people would say, let's go with something I've talked about lots of times and I'm really good at, but I'm not normal, so I'm going to do something completely new, and I hope this works out. There are two things that I think that great leaders need to have: empathy and perspective. And I think these things are very often forgotten. Leaders are so often so concerned about their status or their position in an organization, they actually forget their real job. And the real job of a leader is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in our charge. And I don't think people realize this, and I don't think people train for this. When we're junior, our only responsibility is to be good at our jobs. That's all we really have to do. And some people actually go get advanced educations so that they can be really good at their jobs, accountants or whatever, right? And you show up and you work hard, and the company will give us tons and tons of training how to do our jobs. They'll show us how to use the software. They'll send us away for a few days to get trained in whatever it is that we're doing for the company. And then they expect us to go be good at our jobs. And that's what we do. We work very hard. And if you're good at your job, they'll promote you. And at some point, you'll get promoted to a position where we're now responsible for the people who do the job we used to do. Thanks for having me. But nobody shows us how to do that.
Truly our pleasure.
And that's why we get managers and not leaders. Because the reason our managers are micromanaging us is because they actually do know how to do the job better than us. That's what got them promoted. Really what we have to do is go through a transition. Some people make it quickly, some people make it slowly, and unfortunately some people will never make that transition at all. Which is we have to go through this transition of being responsible for the job and then turning into somebody who's now responsible for the people who are responsible for the job. And as I said before, one of the great things that is lacking in most of our companies is that they are not teaching us how to lead. And leadership is a skill like any other. It is a practicable, learnable skill. And it is something that you work on. It's like a muscle. If you practice it all the days, you will get good at it and you will become a strong leader. If you stop practicing, you will become a weak leader. Like parenting, everyone has the capacity to be a parent. Doesn't mean everybody wants to be a parent. and doesn't mean everybody should be a parent.
Now,
Leadership is the same. We all have the capacity to be a leader. Doesn't mean everybody should be a leader, and it doesn't mean everybody wants to be a leader. And the reason is because it comes at great personal sacrifice. Remember, you're not in charge, you're responsible for those in your charge. That means things like when everything goes right, you have to give away all the credit. And when everything goes wrong, you have to take all the responsibility. That sucks, right?
Well, I think one
it's
of the
things like staying late to show somebody what to do. It's things like when something does actually break, when something goes wrong, instead of yelling and screaming and taking over, you say, try again. When the overwhelming pressures are not on them, the overwhelming pressures are on us. At the end of the day, great leaders are not responsible for the job. They're responsible for the people who are responsible for the job. They're not even responsible for the results. I love talking to CEOs and say, what's your priority? And they put their hands on their hips all proudly and say, my priority is my customer. I'm like, really? You haven't talked to a customer in 15 years.
With farming, that we've been living in populations that were larger than us.
There's no CEO on the planet responsible for the customer.
All the rules
They're just not. They're responsible for the people who are responsible for the people who are responsible for the customer.
And so
I'll tell you a true story. A few months ago, I stayed at the Four Seasons in Las Vegas.
The fact of the matter is we are
it
social
is
animals.
a wonderful hotel.
To the environment.
And the reason it's a wonderful hotel is not because of the fancy beds. Any hotel can go and buy a fancy bed. The reason it's a wonderful hotel is because of the people who work there. If you walk past somebody at the Four Seasons and they say hello to you, you get the feeling that they actually wanted to say hello to you. It's not that somebody told them that you have to say hello to all the customers, say hello to all the guests. Right? You actually feel that they care. Now, in their lobby, they have a coffee stand. And one afternoon, I went to buy a cup of coffee, and there was a barista by the name of Noah who was serving me. Noah was fantastic. He was friendly and fun. And he was engaging with me, and I had so much fun buying a cup of coffee, I actually think I gave 100% tip. Right? He was wonderful. So as is my nature, I asked Noah, do you like your job?
We're obsessed with
and without skipping a beat, Noah says, I love my job.
As if it's this game.
And so I followed up. I said, what is it that the Four Seasons is doing that would make you say to me, I love my job?
Who's driving
And without skipping a beat, Noah said, throughout the day, managers will walk past me and ask me how I'm doing, if there's anything that I need to do my job better. He said, not just my manager, any manager.
When they come together in protected
and then he said
or
something
unprotected
magical.
environments and how we respond
He
to
says,
environments.
I also work at Caesar's Palace. And at Caesar's Palace, the managers are trying to make sure we're doing everything right. They catch us when we do things wrong. He says, when I go to work there, I like to keep my head under the radar and just get through the day so I can get my paycheck. He says, here at the Four Seasons, I feel I can be myself. Same person. Entirely different experience from the customer who will engage with Noah. So we in leadership are always criticizing the people. We're always saying we've got to get the right people on the bus. I've got to fill my team. I've got to get the right people. But the reality is it's not the people. It's the leadership. If we create the right environment, we will get people like Noah at the Four Seasons. If we create the wrong environment, we will get people like Noah at Caesar's Palace.
They have authority.
It's not the people. And yet we're so quick to hire and fire. You can't hire and fire your children. If your kids are struggling, we don't say, you got to see at school, you're up for adoption.
And that's what leadership is.
So why is it that when somebody has performance problems at work, why is it that our instinct is to say, you're out?
Leadership is a practice like any other.
We do not practice
it is a skill
empathy.
That can be learned.
What does empathy look like? Here's the lack of empathy. This is normal in our business world. You walk into someone's office, someone walks into our office and says, your numbers have been down for the third quarter in a row. You have to pick up your numbers, otherwise I can't guarantee what the future will look like. How inspired do you think that person is to come to work the next day? Here's what empathy looks like.
To make decisions.
You walk into someone's office, someone walks into your office and says, your numbers are down for the third quarter in a row.
Another human being.
Are you
okay?
okay?
How they feel about their own jobs.
I'm worried about you.
How well their
what's going on?
Responsibility goes.
We all have performance issues. Maybe someone's kid is sick. Maybe they're having problems in their marriage. Maybe one of their parents is dying. We don't know what's going on in their lives. And of course it will affect performance at work. Empathy is being concerned about the human being, not just their output.
Means that our friends can rely on us. They can trust us.
To practice empathy.
There's no difference.
And one of the groups that
Human
we
beings,
are
human
pretty bad
relations.
at practicing empathy with
At the end of
is
the
our
day,
young millennials.
becoming a
So
leader
let me
is
show
about
you
transition.
what empathy looks like.
And everybody
Listening
has
to
to go through
understand,
one
trying to
component.
understand
And
someone's point of
as
view
an
and
aside,
disposition.
I will say,
At
leadership is
100%
like
of the
parenting in
talks that I
sense
give or the meetings that I
everybody has
have,
the capacity to
invariably
be a parent.
someone will
That
raise
doesn't
their
mean
hand and
everybody wants
ask
to be a
about
parent.
the
It doesn't
millennial
mean everybody
problem.
should be a parent. Leadership is the same. Everyone has the
Apparently, this
capacity
young
to be a leader.
generation is
It doesn't mean
unleadable.
everybody wants to be a leader.
Apparently,
It doesn't mean
they have
everybody should be a leader.
confounded every
And the reason
single
is it
company
comes
in every
with
single
massive,
industry.
massive
And so now it's at the point where
Sometimes
companies have given up
just don't
and are
want it.
now
It's a
just
lifestyle
asking
they choose
millennials,
not to have.
what do you
That's
want?
fine. That's absolutely fine.
And so they
But
say,
if someone chooses
we want free food and
that
bean
is
bags.
a lifestyle they would like to have. They would like
And
to
so now every company has free food
then
and
they
bean
have to
bags, and
acknowledge
guess
that
what?
they
Nothing
will
has
or need
changed.
to go through a transition.
So what I thought
we're
we would
very,
do,
very
what I thought I would
junior,
do,
the only
is
thing we
show
have
you
to
what
do is
empathy
do our
looks
jobs.
like. How do we practice empathy with
Some people go
someone
get
we don't
advanced
understand?
degrees.
How do we practice
do their
empathy with an
jobs,
organization or a
engineers,
group
accountants.
that we're
And if
struggling
you're good
with?
at your job, they'll
Right?
promote you.
So we have to understand
And
that
eventually you'll get
it breaks down to
promoted
four
to a
things.
position where you're now responsible for the people who do the job.
I've broken it down into
but
parenting,
nobody teaches us how to do that.
technology,
We just expect them to be good
impatience,
at leadership.
and environment.
It's as if we put somebody
Let's talk
in front
about
of the
parenting
machine and
first.
demanded results, but never
Too
showed them how to
many
use the machine.
millennials
And
have
so
grown
the reason
up
we get managers, the reason we get micromanagers,
subject
the
to what
reason we
has
get
been
bad
described
leaders
as a
is
failed
because nobody
parenting
showed them